Thompson speaking from World Health Alert Crisis. Good afternoon. I'd like to ask you, what are the risks, do you think, of the UK having eased lockdown, with people going back to work, public transport quite crowded, and shops starting to open before having implemented a full tracking and tracing system? Or do you think that they have already? Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, we will try to go to Carl as the last question. Sorry, Carl, to you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. There have been discussions.
Carl, can you just respond to this question, and then we will come back to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, yeah. I'm waiting. Sorry.
Okay. DG says that. Carl, go ahead, ask your question, so we will then have two in a row. Carl, please go ahead.
Okay. I wonder if we can talk about the discussions. If closed borders had an effect on slowed down spreading the virus, especially as states like Germany, Switzerland, Austria are now plan to reopen. And I wanted to know, are there any recommendations? What should states keep in mind when reopening borders, when reactivating travel?
Borders. I think the borders one has more general relevance. We'll answer that one first and then come back to the specific UK one. I think there are both land and air borders, and obviously crossing a land border in itself doesn't present a tremendous amount of risk because the conveyancer is usually a car, so it's a person moving from one zone to the other. And I think a lot of countries now are looking at risk and response equalization. They're looking at other countries and saying, is the risk of disease in your country similar to mine? And is your response comprehensive like mine? So if we exchange citizens or tourists, there's no real difference. If a person from a country that's managing risk well and managing response well can move between countries, then you're not adding any extra risk by moving your citizens between the countries. And in that sense, you see countries in the Baltic, like Latvia and Lithuania, looking at what they call bubble travel zones. I think Australia and New Zealand doing the same. I think countries in the ASEAN are doing the same and looking at how, and I think that's maybe how travel and trade will return. I'm not an economist and I'm not a futurist, but I think you're going to see countries in the same sub-regions or regions, particularly those with land borders or strong traditional trading or historical links, are going to look for ways to equalize the risk, bring the responses into line, so that they have the confidence of their communities that the risk in that country and the response in that country is very similar to what we have here, and therefore we can move as citizens between. So that's going to take time, but I sense that's the way it's going to happen. Air travel is a different challenge because air travel can bring people a very long way and around the world, literally in half a day or a day. And that's going to introduce more complexity for countries as regards the rules they will have for arrivals from far away, and that's going to involve much more sophisticated risk management and risk reduction measures, both in terms of which countries can travel to which, and then how the airline process or the travel process is managed. And I think a lot of airlines now, we're working with IATA, we're working with ICAO on guidelines for how airlines can resume in a safe manner. And that risk has to be managed right the way through the airport process, the travel process, and then the immigration and arrival process, was not just being on the plane. It's a long procedure. So we are working to try and advise the travel industry how to do that as safely as possible. But again, this comes back from their countries, and they will need to do that both at their land borders and at their air borders, and the arrangement.
Because this is consistent for every country across the world. And there are 6 criteria that countries need to take into account when they are considering adjusting their public health and social measures, or so-called lockdowns. We've already discussed that lockdown criteria, and the DG has said this several times in his speeches, is that transmission is controlled. That means sufficient health systems and public health capacities are in place. The third is to make sure that the risks of outbreaks in high vulnerable settings are minimized. Is that workplace preventive measures are established. 5, the risks of reported cases are managed. Lastly, that communities are fully engaged. These are informed, empowered, knowledgeable community members who understand.
I understand that chief scientist of the WHO spoke today to the FT about us having to, it's going to take 4 to 5 years before the virus is under control. And that seems to me like a sea change in people's expectations, because I think most people of the chief scientist something held widely within the WHO. Thank you.
Sunia's commentary was, but I suspect it was an answer to probably a question about how long could this last, as opposed to how long do you predict it will last. We have a new virus entering the human population for the first time, and therefore it is very hard to predict when we will prevail. There's actually